Today, I'm going to begin working on my pinch pot planter. For this project, I decided to go with my first idea. This means I'm going to have to create a pinch pot, coils, some legs, little spheres for decoration, and use my stamp as well. But the first step is the pinch pot. So I'm going to grab my clay and using my floss, go ahead and cut a piece off. Now keep in mind that our pinch pots grow pretty large, so a little bit of clay can sometimes go further than we expect. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to start to work it into a sphere that I will then turn into a pinch pot. So I'm going to close that up for now. I'll need more clay to make my extra pieces, but right now I'm going to focus on the pinch pot. So close this up and set it aside. So I have my hunk of clay, and it's important to start with a nice round shape because that will make stretching and shaping easier. If I start and it's a wild, crazy, lumpy shape, it'll be even harder to get nice and smooth and to keep it round. So I kind of like to just tap it until I form a nice sphere shape. So that looks pretty good. So now, of course, I'm going to take my thumb, I'm going to pop it in the center, making sure not to go all the way through. And as always, I need to take my ring off because it leaves impressions in my clay. So here's my ball, pop my thumb in, and I'm going to begin to stretch and open. Keeping in mind that pinch pots take time. They're a slow and steady wins the race construction method. So I am using my whole hand to hold this ball of clay as I use my thumb to smooth out. And usually the inside looks better than the outside when we first start, but I will, of course, clean up the outside, but I'll try to keep it as smooth as I can. I'm going for like a real kind of evenly wide and tall shape. So I'm going to continue to stretch and open up until I get about a 1/4 inch thick, and I also have the size that I am happy with. So I'll continue to turn and stretch and slowly open up my pinch pot until I have my perfect base for my planter. Once I've been pinching for a while and I've gotten pretty close to the size and shape and most importantly, the thickness. So you can see that the lip of my pot is a 1/4 inch in thickness, and that is my goal. So you might think, oh, I'm almost there, but you probably have a long way that you can still stretch out. I like to just feel around and with my fingers find areas that maybe feel thicker or higher and go ahead and give them a gentle press using the whole kind of flat part of my thumb to make a smooth surface, not squishing it, but really applying even pressure, keeping it nice and smooth. Now, I need to clean up a good bit. So I'm going to take my sponge and just with a little bit of water, I'm going to reintroduce some moisture into the lip. So this can get a little bit crunchy and crackly while we're stretching. So don't panic. You can also add water to that lip while you're going. Mine wasn't too bad while I was working, so I figured I was good to wait until this point. But if yours is cracking a little bit earlier in the process, you can always give your finger a dunk in some water and gently start to work some of that moisture back into the clay and also just smoothing out the surface. This is crucial. This is an area where we sometimes see the need for improvement, to take the extra step to smooth, to clean up, to refine, and to elevate the level of craftsmanship. This is where we see it. So I would just continue to do this, taking my time, really making it as smooth as I can, even applying a little bit of pressure. So that way I'm forcing, if the clay is getting kind of crackly, if I use a little bit of pressure while supporting it, I can kind of make it one again. I might lose the tiniest bit of height, but it is a much stronger, cleaner lip. Now, I might also want to, level it off a little bit depending on where I'm at. But what I'm going to do for now is just focus on cleaning it up, smoothing it, so you can already see how much more smooth that is. It just takes a little bit of time, a little bit of patience, a little bit of work, but it pays off big time. So I'm going to continue to do that. Same with the edges. We want all soft edges, no sharp edges. Again, using the broad part of my thumb, blending, smoothing the clay, all the things we're looking for. I can do that too for any high areas. I can kind of blend it back down so that I get a more even lip. I'm going to continue to do that here on the lip, on the inside, smoothing any areas I need to. The inside is pretty smooth though. And then I'm going to start working on the outside. So the outside has that kind of bumpy texture from pinching and using my fingers. So I'm going to go ahead and take some time to start working on smoothing this surface because I want it to be nice and smooth when I go to stamp it. So this again is just going to take a little bit of time, a little bit of patience, being careful always to support while I do this. So using just a tiny bit of water. I always call this a little bit of a sponge bath for our ceramics. A little bit of sponging goes a long way, but be careful not to add too much water because then it gets really slippery and it can get kind of sloppy. So I can rest it on my sponge so I don't get a flat spot. That's also a really good tip. So I'll do this and I will continue to work around until the entire exterior is smooth, and then I can consider stamping and also making the other elements to create the rest of my planter design. Once I'm happy with the overall size, shape, and I've cleaned it up well, I'm going to go ahead and stamp my pinch pot because that's what my design included. So I'm going to begin at the bottom. So I kind of have like a little flat spot, and I'm going to kind of use that as my center point here. And I'm going to wrap my way around. So I'm going to kind of try to do my best here to center it. I'm going to kind of mark where I want it to go. And then I'm going to hold it with my hand so that I can support the pot and make sure that the shape doesn't get altered. And with a rocking motion, I'm going to stamp once, and I will continue to rotate and stamp my design. Now, not everyone will be stamping. This was just part of my design, but whether you are carving or if you are coiling for details, you want to make sure that you are planning, that you are retaining the overall shape, that you are supporting your pot. And it is important that I stamp it now while it is soft. So that is a pretty fun start there. You could see again I was using the sponge for a little bit of assistance with supporting it. I'm going to try to line this up and get that top edge. Okay, that looks better. So I will then continue and work with my design here, kind of fitting my stamp in, and I'm kind of working in a radial design, so I am going from a circle point outward. So I'm going to line this up. And the good thing is if it does get a tiny bit wonky, it is still soft, so I'm able to fairly easily kind of squeeze it back to the shape that it was, so it's still pretty malleable, so that's also very helpful at this stage, and I don't risk, cracking it or anything from being too dry. So this softer state is a good time to add these details so not to run into any problems with the overall shape of my pot. So I'm going to continue to stamp until my whole design has been included, and I will periodically kind of just check my shape to make sure it doesn't get too wild or wonky, and yeah, then I'll be able to work on constructing the extra elements. Once I have fully stamped and decorated the outside of my planter pinch pot, I'm going to go ahead and set it aside. I'm going to put it upside down because I don't want to smush any of the stamps that I have created. And I'm going to start working on those extra elements to create legs and decorative top pieces.